Hello guys, welcome to another weekly breakdown video. Today I will be breaking down the second week of April for you guys, starting from 15th April. And yeah, let's start the breakdown. So first of all, before starting the weekly analysis, let me show you the news. So Monday and Tuesday there was no news. Wednesday was CPI. It was a CPI week. Even though whatever week it is, we don't care. We trade it, right? If there is no news in our session, there is London, we don't consider it. So there was CPI on Wednesday, PPI on Thursday, and on Friday there was GBP news. So Monday and Tuesday were no news. So obviously Monday and Tuesday will be high probability days to trade. And yeah, that was the news. And now going on to the weekly, let me show you my callouts. So it was an A-class setup, okay, and it was a beautiful trade. Everything was perfect. The zone got respected, but it was CPI, so we didn't trade. Okay, so sometimes this will happen, right? Everything, your setup will appear to the T, but due to high impact news, you will not enter because you don't know what the news will do, right? You cannot predict the news because it is what it is. Nobody can predict the news unless you have some insider information. Sometimes just EU is more accurate to trade. Decide that according to the zone. Yeah, EU and GU we trade the same strategy. Sometimes GU will do fuck all like this. Literally, it will consolidate for a long time. That is when you go to the EU to trade. Beautiful trade, but we don't have taken in live markets because the demand zone was already mitigated. So this I will show you, obviously, don't worry. And the last one is, whenever there is no clear zone to trade from, avoid trading and wait for it to play out and give you your zone to trade from. Don't try to find a zone. If a trade is perfect or if a trade is genuine, it will, just by first glance, you will come to know. If you look in the markets, if you have to find a zone to trade from, that means you are doing something wrong. Because if the trade is there, for you, then you don't have to look for something. It will be right in front of your eyes, right? So the moment that you have to search for something, that is the moment you should be out of the charts. That I've learned from the charts. People make this mistake. They want instant gratification. They want to be in a trade, right? I was the same guy, but I have learned from my mistakes. That's the only difference. So let's start without any bullshitting anymore. So going on the weekly time frame, clearly we can see the bias is bullish according to how this candle closed, and obviously I will correlate it with DXY afterwards. And there was a weekly fair value gap which we could have targeted, and there is also a draw of liquidity right here. If I'm bullish, I am targeting this draw of liquidity right here on the weekly. So this was the GBP USD analysis for you guys. On the weekly, there is the same supply zone I have been trading for months now. So yeah, and on DXY the opposite will be true. The weekly bias is bearish, as I have also written here. The weekly bias on DXY is bearish, GU is bullish, and if I am bearish, I'm targeting this fair value gap, and the main target will be this draw of liquidity. And also this is the demand zone. This demand zone is valid due to this break of structure, and yeah, it is what it is. And now going on the daily time frame, where our main analysis starts. Weekly is just for weekly bias, and now the main analysis starts. Now my daily bias. What is my daily bias, right? So the market is in this demand right here. This demand failed here. This demand failed. This demand failed. This demand failed. Now this is on this demand right here. So if even this demand fails, then what we will do, we'll mark this demand. The market will never be out of demand or supply, because it moves due to supply and demand. It moves due to liquidity. Liquidity is the essence of the market, but it moves from one supply to a demand or a demand to a supply, also known as liquidity zones, right? So going on Monday, my bias was bullish, which was aligning with the weekly bias being bullish. So on Monday, I was looking for buys. Whenever the weekly bias is aligning with the daily bias on Monday, that is when I take the trade on Monday. So let me show you my daily bias on DXY quickly. So DXY, my bias was bearish, opposite of GU, which is fine, which is what we are looking for exactly, right? So yeah, now going on GU, that is when now my bias is clear. After clearing my bias, after clearing my Y, now where? Now the next step is where, right? So where will I trade from? If my bias is bullish, where will I trade from? So on the H4, I can mark this demand zone right here. This is a demand zone on the H4, which got mitigated, which was made on Wednesday, got mitigated on Friday, and now having a move. So no, this is the demand zone, but this demand zone, if you want to trade this demand zone, you have to wait for whole week for the market to come here and then make the move. So it will be a swing trade. So we are intraday traders, so obviously I will go to hourly, because those are the time frames which we should trade. And yeah, on the hourly time frame, as you can see, this is the low that caused this high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So there was no demand zone on the hourly. This is why I didn't trade it on Monday, I guess. And I've also written one call out: whenever there is no clear zone to trade from, avoid trading and wait for it play out and give your zone to trade from. Sorry, and give the market the time to give your zone to trade from. That is the reason I have written that. So I guess on Monday I didn't took the trade. And yeah, Monday the Asian high was there, and Monday gave us our demand zone, I guess. Let's see. So Monday played out to the T. Monday we didn't took the trade because there was no demand zone, but Monday literally did play out to the T. Monday I was looking for buys, and the buys did play out, as you can see right here. And going on Tuesday, my bias is still bullish because it has not shown me that it wants to reject. And until and unless the market give me confirmation that it wants to reject, who am I to go against the trend, right? So even on DXY, if I'm aligning, I should be bearish. So which was exactly bearish. On Monday, it closed as a bearish candle. So we can target this weekly fair value gap right there. And yeah, so that was my analysis. So going on Tuesday, if I'm looking for buys, I'll go to the 4 hourly, open the chart again. There is no news, as I've shown you. And the 4 hourly has created a fair value gap, which the market can come down, fill up this fair value gap, and then continue heading towards the upside. So on the 4 hourly, this demand zone is still valid. And yeah, so I'll go to the hourly to look for demand zones to trade from. This was the change of character on the hourly, because this was the low high that caused this lower low. So this is the lower high, so until and unless the price breaks out this lower high, it will still be bearish. And yeah, the moment the price broke that is when I was looking for sales from that zone. So the next call out comes here. I'll show you why I've written that call out. So here I've written beautiful trade, but wouldn't have taken in the live markets because the demand zone was already mitigated by the 230 market opening candle. So let me show you why I've written this. I have written this call out because, as you can see, this was the M30's demand zone, perfect demand zone, beautiful demand zone. I should have taken it, but why I have not traded this demand zone was, the reason was, this was a 230 candle. When the market opens at 2:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, right? So this candle did went and mitigated the M30 demand, which gives us a confirmation that it doesn't need to go again to that demand zone, because it has already gone there once. So yeah, there was accumulation, there was manipulation. If the market did give us a deeper pullback to the demand zone and sweep this liquidity right here, I would have happily taken this trade, but I didn't took the trade because it was just not our trade. And yeah, if I had taken it, would have been a winner, but there is no woulda, coulda, shoulda in the markets. So yeah, it was a beautiful trade, to be honest, if I'm looking now, but the previous structural liquidity didn't got swept. So this is when I go to the Wednesday. Going on Wednesday, going on Wednesday, there is CPI news right here. So on Wednesday there was CPI, Thursday there was PPI. So now the news starts to come in the markets, right? Monday, Tuesday there was no news, we couldn't find no trades, or the market didn't give any opportunity. So on Wednesday there's CPI, so also we have to keep that in mind. And yeah, going on Wednesday, now I'm looking for buys because of how this candle closed, and that is when I look for demand zones. But before that, I will quickly correlate it with DXY. Even the DXY is bullish. This is why on Wednesday I didn't took the trade, because you can see Tuesday closed as a bullish pin bar on DXY, and also a bullish candle, kind of bullish candle on Tuesday. So it was very confusing. The bias on Wednesday, going on Wednesday, the bias was not clear, and that is the reason I didn't took the trade, I guess. Let me show you what I've done. So I'll go to the H4. Obviously the H4, the previous week high is now taken, so our target, if I'm bullish, is already taken, right? So that is when I go to the lower time, on the H1 time frame, the previous week high is already taken. This is the demand zone, so if I'm looking for buys, something like this will be okay. And let's see, my bias was not clear going on Wednesday. My bias was not clear. So, but if I was looking for something, if I had correlated GU with DXY, so my bias was now bearish on GU, and if my bias is bearish, I have to look for supply zones, which I did right here, right? So this was the supply zone I was looking to trade from. The market swept the Asian high, went to the supply zone, and then literally gave us our move. But this was CPI. Everything I want to see in a trade was present, but as I've written here, it was a beautiful trade. Everything was perfect. The zone was respected, but it was CPI, so we didn't took the trade. So yeah, it is what it is. Whole day the market went up, went up, went up, went up, went up, boom, boom. So it was just not our trade. In the live markets also, I guess I would not have taken this trade, and if I had taken, it would be a 0.5% risk, because yeah, trades like this also work out, as you can see right now. And this is when I go to the 4-hourly time frame. Going on Thursday. On Thursday we caught a beautiful trade. Let me show you how, when, and where. So on Thursday there was PPI news, Euro main refinancing rate. So I will not trade Euro, but I can trade GBP, right? No GBP news. And if I show you my FX book, same thing here. On Thursday there was no GBP news. So that is when now I'm looking for sales, even though my weekly bias is bullish. But after a candle like this, and it's also like the Monday, Tuesday went up, Wednesday came down. So it is a bearish candle profiling on the weekly, so which gives us more confluence. And the same thing, the contrary happened on DXY, which this daily fair value gap got filled 50% right here, as you can see. Now we can target to fill up this fair value gap. Yeah, there's always a chance that the market can go back, rebalance the price, but we don't do that. Yeah, it can do that, but I don't trade that. I don't trade pullbacks. I only trade with the trend. So yeah, if I will be looking for something, it would be sales. So now going on the 4-hourly, if I'm looking for sales, I will go to the 4-hourly. There was a change of character. This change of character will now go here, as you can see. So this was the H4 change of characters. This was the supply, fair value gap, fair value gap. So now on the H1, I will wait for the Asian range to close, as always. So yep, on Thursday we caught a beautiful trade. Let me show you. There was a H1 supply zone, beautiful supply zone made on New York session, which was also aligning with our H4 fair value gap. So whenever a fair value gap and supply zones are aligning, that is when that is called a high probability zone. And sometimes just EU is more accurate to trade. Decide that according to the zone, 100%. So now I am looking for a trade on Thursday. Beautiful, everything is aligning. Only the thing that is not aligning is the weekly bias. And even if the weekly bias is not aligning, we can take the trade. I have decided that through my back testing. So I was looking for a sell after the Asian high liquidity sweep, previous structural liquidity sweep, M15 supply zone mitigation, perfect setup. It was a A setup. It was a class setup, but I didn't consider it a class setup because the higher time frame were not aligning. But other than that, it was a perfect trade. The news was very, very far away, so we can still trade even if there is news, and we know that the markets get manipulated in the news. Even though we can look for trades and yeah, catch some beautiful trades like this. And always give your stop loss room to breathe, 1.5 pips, which is my new rule. So Thursday we caught a trade, and the last day, now we go to the last day on Friday. So on Friday there was GBP news, as you can see, GDP, which is gross domestic product, the monetary value of all the goods and services produced by the country in a certain period of time, right? That's the definition, but we don't need that. And Friday was very tricky because it was London news, and we trade London. So on Friday, what I was looking for was the market to go and fill up this fair value gap. Now this is not a rebalance of price. Now this is a fair value gap. I trade fair value gaps, but I don't trade rebalance of price. Remember that. On the weekly I might, but on the daily I don't. So this daily fair value gap got filled to the T. Only like 5% left of this fair value gap, and also the supply zone on the daily time frame got mitigated perfectly. And now we can target this fair value gap to get filled. as I told you, the market is either trading from a demand to a supply or a supply to a demand, right? For example, look at this. The market came from a supply to a demand. Now it is going from a demand to a supply. Simple. So going on Friday, I was looking for buys on GBP USD. If I'm looking for buys, I will have to look for some change of characters to look for demand zones, which was not present. On the 4 hourly, it wasn't. And also on the hourly, it wasn't, I guess. Yep, on the hourly, even on the hourly, there was no sort of supply zone. Even on the 30 minutes, there wasn't, because the market was trending from this high to this low. And this is the lower high that goes this lower low. So yeah, that was on Friday. I probably didn't took the trade then. So Friday was a no trade day for me. But what did Friday do? On Friday, I anticipated the market to go up and fill up this fair value gap, right? But what the market chose to do was literally continued with the trend and to the downside. So now the market has very huge fair value gaps. One fair value gap here and a rebalance of price here. So next week we can anticipate to target these fair value gaps for draw of liquidity, for sweeping liquidity from the retail traders. And yeah, institutions, liquidity is the essence of the market. We have to understand liquidity. If you don't understand the liquidity, you will become the liquidity. All those things, we know that. So this was the weekly profiling. Market went up, came down, gave us a pullback, and then continued. This was the weekly profiling this week. So yes, it was a very interesting week. We caught one trade. There will be some weeks you will get many trades. There will be some weeks when you will not get no trades. That is perfectly fine, and you don't need to trade always. One trade a week is enough, but if the market is giving it, why not, right? So on the weekly, the bias is for the next week. The bias is so clear, being bearish, but also it makes sense to rebalance the price. But as I told you, I don't trade the rebalance. So yeah, that was the analysis, and yep, see you on another video.